Hey friends, it's Rana and today's video is the 4th episode of the Do We Match series, a series on my channel where I read my favorite booktubers' favorite books of 2020, and according to the ratings that I give these books, they get points. And at the end of each episode, I calculate the points to get the final score of each booktuber, and the final score will place them on my ranking list. I made this series just for fun and to find which of my favorite booktubers matches my weird reading taste the best. And for today's episode, I will be talking about Books and Lala's favorite books of 2020. I'll be talking about these books according to the order that Kayla talked about them in her video. And just a little warning, the first two books I didn't really enjoy, so if you don't want to hear me talking negatively about these books, feel free to just skip ahead to me talking about the third book. The first book we will be talking about is Felix Ever After by Casey Callender. This book is about a transgender boy called Felix who is black, queer, and studying art. He is dreaming of getting a scholarship to this elite art school. He is living with his father only because his mother left them long time ago when he was a little kid, and he has just one very close friend. One day, an unknown person at his school makes a gallery of all of his old pictures before transitioning and dead naming him, and immediately after, assumingly the same person starts sending him transphobic DMs on Instagram. Felix suspects that the culprit is this one boy at school who he considers like his nemesis, and he decides to get revenge from him by catfishing him. Yeah, and things go wild from here. I won't be talking much about this book because I didn't enjoy it whatsoever. I found it to be messy and all over the place from the get-go. First of all, Felix was so jealous, self-absorbed, dramatic, whiny little shit most of the book, and that really got on my nerves. He slightly improved by the end of the book, but the journey to that point, to the ending where he improved, was torturous to me, and he said and did so many annoying things that if I list them for you, this video will be an hour long, and I won't do that. The ending was very predictable and not in a satisfying way. It felt very rushed and underwhelming. I listened to the audiobook and it was my very first time ever that I dislike the narrator's style and voice. He had that nasally sound to his way of talking that really I couldn't bear to listen to, but I pushed it through and eventually I got used to it. And one of the things that really annoyed me about Felix is that he is a Slytherin. And why I know that? Because he told us multiple times throughout the book that he is a Slytherin, but it isn't really an excuse for you to be a little piece of shit to everyone around you, including your family. I really don't feel like talking about this book any longer. I just want to get to the books that I enjoyed. I gave Felix Ever After 2.5 out of 5 stars. The next book we have is Split Tooth by Tanya Tagaq. This book, I don't know how to describe it. The only word that can describe it for me is weird. Weird as hell. I still don't know what the main point of this book is about or what actually happened. I believe it is about a girl in the 1970s and the story of her pregnancy, intertwined with parts that seemed irrelevant and made no sense. Yeah, it was beautifully written and was full of imagery and poetic prose, but to be frank with you, I understood absolutely nothing from this book. The breaking point for me was that fairy scene where the main character gives a BJ to a fairy fox man or something like that, and I lost it at that point. I can't remember anything that happened after that. I clearly didn't enjoy my reading experience of this book, and I gave it in the end 2 out of 5 stars. And now let's start talking about the books that I actually enjoyed. The first book is The Empress of Salt and Fortune by Ni Wu. The story of this book is told within a discussion between Clerk Shi, who is someone who records history, and Rabbit, who is a former handmaiden of the Empress. Rabbit gradually reveals to us past events that happened with her when she was a handmaiden to the Empress, and after small sections of the story, she asks do you understand? And in that way, we learn all the things that happened with her and her story. I love this book and the story of it, and I still can't believe how short the audiobook was. The audiobook was like around 2 hours, but it doesn't feel like it because the story and the word is so rich. And it is amazing how the author managed to make the story short in less than 2 hours without feeling like it was info dump. This story was so wonderfully done that I listened to it in one sitting, and it felt like a dream that I didn't want to stop. I give this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I can't wait to reread it just to listen to the second book in the series. And I have a feeling that it will be a long series consisting of short books, just like the Wayward Children series, which I really love. Next book is Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay. I love that Lala does not have one but 2 non-fiction books on her list, and this is the first one. Bad Feminist is an essay collection book tackling many feminist issues and critiquing media and how media influence feminism and vice versa. I wasn't really feeling this book at the beginning, but it slowly grew on me and it really picked up towards the middle. For a moment I forgot that this book is about feminism because it talked a good deal about Black experience and critiquing Black movies. She even roasted some of my favorite movies like The Help and Django Unchained, and I understand her criticism and where she is coming from and really appreciate it. I really don't know how to talk about non-fiction books that I liked, but I really enjoyed this one and I found myself falling in love with Roxane Gay. She is smart, funny, and I really enjoyed the essays that talked about her and her experience. They were my personal favorite. Great book, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. Little Women is a classic, and I don't read classics as much as I used to, but I can tell you that Little Women is one of the best classics that I ever read. It is about 4 sisters, Meg, Beth, Jo, and Amy. Jo is my favorite, by the way, and their lives and adventures. The book is not really about plot, it is more about the relationship between the characters and the character development. I consider Little Women to be a light classic because when you are reading it, you really enjoy it without feeling like it is a chore. And I must admit that at some parts it felt a little bit boring, but overall I really enjoyed it. I'm not in love with the book as much as Lala, but I enjoyed it and I give it 4 out of 5 stars, and I'm planning to watch the movie soon. The next book we have is The Weight of the Stars by Kay Ancram. How to describe this book? This book is following our main character, Ryan Bird, who dreams of traveling to the space, but her dream seems to be impossible. She lives in a trailer park in the wrong side of the city with her younger brother who refused to speak and his infant son. She has a set of delinquent friends who she befriends in a really odd ways, and one day there is a new girl at her school called Alexandria, where she finds to be very interesting, and the principals ask Ryan Bird to befriend her in her unique way. But in the process of doing that, she finds out the secret of Alexandria's parents. I love this book, and it was a pleasant surprise to me because I don't usually enjoy LGBTQ+ books. Not because I'm homophobic, but because most of the time these books are depressing and they are all about the main character going through hell for who they are. I love this book because it has diversity and it is normal. It is not their whole personality and it is not the main point of the book. For example, we have a sapphic relationship and it's hella cute. The plot is strong, the characters are real, and there is no forced representation. Everything went smoothly and perfectly. I give this book 5 out of 5 stars. Yes, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars and I loved it. My only complaint about this book is a side character called Ahmed. At first, I was really happy and surprised to see a Muslim character called Ahmed in a book, but then odd things start happening. Like, for example, he is described as wearing turban. One thing that is incorrect: Muslim people don't wear turban. They usually very religious people wear amama, but no Muslim person wear turban, which, if you don't know, turban are specifically for Sikh people. Then another crazy thing is revealed, that he has 2 fathers and 1 mother, which is impossible for a Muslim to be in such a relationship. Then halfway through the book, it is finally revealed that he is actually not Muslim, he is a Sikh. And I was like, what? Which is the stupidest thing ever, because no way in hell you could find a Sikh person with a Muslim name, nonetheless Ahmed. Again, if you don't know, Ahmed is a Muslim name. It is very Muslim name, like without doubt. Like our Prophet, one of his names is Ahmed, and there is no way you could find a Sikh person called Ahmed. I think the author should have picked a better Sikh name for a Sikh character without causing confusion. Like I was very confused to read about someone called Ahmed having 2 fathers and 1 mother and wearing a turban. It's not my fault. I just assumed that someone called Ahmed is Muslim. But that didn't hinder my enjoyment of this book, and I still loved it and gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The next book is Watch Over Me by Nina LaCour. This is my first time ever reading anything by Nina LaCour, and it won't be the last time for sure. This book is about Mila, a girl who aged out of the foster system, and she is immediately offered a job at this farm. This farm is owned by a couple who take care of little children, and she immediately accepts and starts working with them by teaching this one boy. This farm is far from normal, and there are a lot of weird things in it, like ghosts, and they are taking to be normal things in the farm. Also, suspicious things keep happening. We go on a journey with Mila to discover what is happening there, while we also learn about her past and what happened with her mother and stepfather. Unlike Split Tooth, this book is the kind of weird that I enjoy. I really liked it and gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I just would have preferred if the ending geared towards creepy, evil weird rather than sweet, light-hearted weird. I think that would have made a better ending, but overall a solid read, and would recommend it to people who like sad books with an element of magical realism in it. The next book is the second non-fiction book we have on this list, is Disfigured by Amanda Leduc. This book is half memoir, half critical analysis of some classic stories, fables, fairy tales, and Disney movies, and their bad way of portraying and representing disfigured characters. I listened to the audiobook on Scribd and I loved it. I appreciated learning about Amanda's life as a person who is considered disfigured, and telling us how and why she is the way she is, the hardships and the bullying that she went through, and how she came to accept who she is as a person. All of this is done while discussing the glaring obvious connection between fairy tale and disability, and how it is done in a bad way that ends up being harmful. I really like this book, especially since a young age I noticed this problem in fairy tales and movies, and I always pointed it out. Why the villains always have to be hideous, disfigured, or both? I wanted to read a book that tackled that issue, and this book in a way did that, but I really wanted it to go more in depth about it. There were many instances in this book where I felt it to be extremely repetitive, and instead of that it could have dived more in depth with this issue and discussed other important things rather than talking about the same points over and over again. Other than that, I really enjoyed this book and gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book is Elatsoe by Darcy Little Badger. The main plot of this book is that Ellie's cousin dies unexpectedly in a car accident, but the whole thing doesn't make any sense to her, and she tries to unravel what actually happened with him. This book is way more than that, and I really liked it and enjoyed it a lot. I just want you to know that it has own voice indigenous representation. Ellie has a ghost dog, there is vampires, and many things other than that when it goes down in this book. I really enjoyed this book, and I really like that the characters really feel like real teenagers, not just characters who act like adults and we are supposed to believe that they are teenagers. I also love the family dynamic in it. This book is very brilliant, and we need more great books like this by indigenous people. I give this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I highly recommend it. The next book is We Ride Upon Sticks, and I decided not to read this book because it didn't sound like something I would be interested in, and I didn't want to force myself to read something that I'm not in the mood for, so I picked it as the book that I'm gonna skip reading for this episode. Overall, I think this episode is the best episode quality-wise in my Do We Match series, because I read 1 5-star read, 6 4-star reads, and 2 2-star reads. And after calculating the points, Lala's final score out of 100 is 74.44. which put her at the 3rd place of my ranking list, which currently looks like this. I am quite surprised that she didn't place higher on this list, because I feel like we have similar reading tastes, because both of us has a really weird reading taste. But those 2 2-star reads really ruined it for us. But overall, it was quite the fun experience for me to read all of Lala's favorite books. But I'm really happy about this episode, because thanks to Lala, I found 7 new great books. So that's it for today's video. I hope you liked it. Please subscribe to see my future videos, and I will see you next time. Bye!